The Orange Bowl is taking place January 9th, this Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time between the Penn State Nittany Lions and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And I want to give you today 10 reasons why Notre Dame will win this football game. Notre Dame is one of the best teams in all of college football right now, and they have achieved their first postseason win in the form of a New Year's Six Bowl or a college football playoff win in the 21st century. Not just one, not just their first, but also their second by beating Indiana and beating Georgia in the first round and also the Sugar Bowl respectively. And I think Marcus Freeman right now is certainly a rising name in college football. Penn State's a tough opponent, but I think that Notre Dame definitely can win this game. They're actually favored to win this game per ESPN's FPI, and they're favored by Vegas as a 2-point favorite in this matchup. So I'm going to give you, starting from the 10th most important reason, we're going to save the best for last. I'm going to give you 10 reasons why I believe the Fighting Irish can win this game and advance to the national championship. Before we talk about that, though, I want to encourage you all, if you haven't already, I know many of you watch the show and think you're subscribed, but maybe you aren't. Please subscribe to the channel. Help us get to 30,000 subscribers. We broke through 20,000 subscribers. We broke through that glass ceiling this season. I know thanks to you, we can reach 30,000 subscribers. Like the video to help us get into the algorithm, and also hit the notification bell so that you can get notified when we go live on Mondays and Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We're also going to be going live for both of these semifinal matchups, the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl, to do play-by-play, color commentary, and also we'll interact with the chat during commercial breaks. And also, we release content that isn't shown in our live shows. We're a pretty busy channel, a really busy, analytical, insightful operation here on College Football with Sam. So hitting that notification bell will help you out a lot to find our content. Comment your thoughts down below to enter our giveaway. The giveaway winners, 2 of them will be announced at halftime of the Orange Bowl. 2 will be announced at halftime of the Cotton Bowl. $20 gift card to my merchandise store, $20 Visa gift card to anything you want to spend that money on. That's the winnings of the giveaway. And also share this video around, and again, like, share, subscribe. The links to support the channel through payment or to join our Discord server where we talk college football 24/7, those are in the description and also the pinned comment. The links to those are. But let's discuss first and foremost reason number 10, starting from, I think, the least important reasons to the most important reasons. We like to save the best for last on the channel, talk about winners last, for example. So Notre Dame is a turnover machine, and they're not just a turnover machine when it comes to forcing turnovers. They also just don't turn over the football. I mean, they lead the nation, close to leading the nation in takeaways per game. They're 5th. They average 2.2 takeaways per game. They only throw 0.4 interceptions per game. That's 9th. They're top 20 in fumbles per game. They're top 25 in giveaways per game, only averaging 0.9. And they're second in turnover margin per game at plus 1.3. This team feasts off of turnovers. That's their primary mode of victory. And I think the Fighting Irish do an elite job at both forcing turnovers and just not coughing the football up. They don't throw many picks. They don't put the ball in harm's way. They don't cough up fumbles because their running backs are good. And some of that, of course, is the fact that as a roster and coaching staff, they're really good. But also, and I know that turnovers have some luck to them too, which is why I have this as the 10th most important reason, but they've consistently been able to win the turnover game in several of their matchups. And when you see something that is an outlier, but it's consistent, think of many national championship caliber teams who've won it all or come close, and turnovers have been a huge part of it. Maybe Notre Dame's turnover success isn't entirely a fluke. You know, history says that turnovers are inconsistent and that relying off of them can often punish you. Maybe that's the case in this game, but also maybe not. I wouldn't be shocked at all if they won the turnover matchup against Penn State. Number 9 is their special teams advantage. Notre Dame is creative on special teams. We saw this in the Sugar Bowl, and they've been able to, whether it's last year or this year, return kickoffs or punts for touchdowns. And Mitch Jeter has turned into an effective kicker. He started off the year a little bit rough, but against Georgia, he's been money. And I would also say that he's been money against Indiana. I mean, he was money in that game. He's just been a very good kicker overall. And I think that with Penn State not having as reliable special teams and Notre Dame peaking on special teams, that's a mismatch. I mean, when you look at Mitch Jeter this season, he's 11 of 18, only 61.1%, which really isn't all that good. His long is of 49. He's 50 of 50 on extra points, but in his more recent games, for example, against Georgia, 3 of 3 from 40 to 49 range. He was overall 2 of 3 against Indiana with his season long of 49. So he has been a very good kicker in the playoffs, and I don't necessarily see a reason why that's not going to continue in this matchup. He's found some confidence, he's found some consistency, and on top of that, his special teams coach and head coach prioritize that side of the ball, and they're very athletic, creative, and disciplined on the special teams core. Number 8 is quarterback Riley Leonard. Leonard is limited as a passer, for sure. I think we all know that, including Notre Dame fans, but he's elusive. He has a very good ability to avoid sacks, and he's quick as a runner, whether that's on designed runs or whether that's him simply improvising and escaping the pocket. Leonard this season has 2,383 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 picks, a 137.4 passer rating. He was the player of the game against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, despite not even averaging, I believe, 5 yards per pass attempt. Yeah, 15 of 24 for 90 yards, a touchdown, got sacked once, had 80 rushing yards, though. And that's the thing with Leonard. If you limit him through the air, you better make sure you limit him on the ground, too, because he can have success, actually, in a one-dimensional system, because his legs are that good. He's a very effective scrambler, effective runner, and he doesn't put the ball in harm's way. That one pick against Indiana wasn't really on him, for example. And in that game, 23 of 32 for 201, a touchdown, 30 rushing yards, and a touchdown. I mean, he's been effective in the playoffs. He's been effective in the regular season, especially as the season has progressed. I think he is a reason why Notre Dame can beat the Nittany Lions here and advance to a national championship. I know, again, that he's limited, but we've seen teams with limited QBs before go. I mean, Stetson Bennett or, Coker for Alabama, or if you want to call J.J. McCarthy for Michigan a limited QB. I mean, they helped bring their teams and had X factors that allowed their teams or helped their teams to reach a national championship. Why can't Leonard be the same? Number 7 are the experienced linebackers that Notre Dame has. I'm specifically talking about Jack Kaiser here, who's a graduate with the program. You also have Drake Bowen and Jalen Sneed, who are some younger players, of course. But the combination of upside and experience in this room is lethal. And Kaiser has 75 total tackles, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, a pass defended. Bowen is third on the team in total tackles with 62. He has a sack, 2 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles. Sneed, 44 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Jaden Ausberry, 51 total tackles, half sack, pass defended. I mean, this linebacker room is deep. It's lethal. It's very disciplined. It's a big part of the reason why Al Golden and his defense have success, getting pressure on the QB, stopping the run, just plugging up offenses and making life really difficult for Notre Dame's opponents. And that helps feed into, the turnovers where the linebackers force fumbles, they recover fumbles. They force teams to punt to a good special teams unit. And just Notre Dame really operates in a very systemic way where things are intentional, and that helps them win. And in this matchup specifically, they have a pretty big roster, schematic, systemic, whatever you want to call it, advantage when it comes to their secondary against Penn State's wide receivers. They have an edge there. This is a pretty big reason in my mind why Notre Dame can win the football game. Their secondary might just lock down Penn State's wide receivers entirely. We've talked about Harrison Wallace III and how he's an underrated wide receiver for Penn State. He's pretty good. Amari Evans, I think, has come on with Penn State as the year has progressed and really gelled with Kotelnicki and Aller and the Nittany Lion offense. But Notre Dame has a collection of really effective defensive backs, whether it's Leonard Moore, Christian Gray, Xavier Watts, Adon Schuler, Jordan Clark, Rod Hurd, that just lock you down. And Notre Dame loves to run man coverage. They love it. I don't think that Penn State's wide receivers necessarily have the speed, the discipline, or the technique to really break these guys in coverage. I mean, they may get some catches here or there, but Leonard Moore has 10 passes defended, 2 picks. Notre Dame on the season has 18 picks and 58 passes defended. And 14 of them have came from their starting defensive back core. 6 of them from Xavier Watts. And they're fast, they're athletic. Some of them are young, some of them are more experienced, but regardless, they all play in a really nice and effective. They're all in lockstep. That secondary is for Notre Dame. So I have a hard time seeing Penn State's wide receivers really gain on them. Reason number 5 is the running back room for Notre Dame. Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. They are another elite set of running backs in the semifinals. And what I mean by that is, personally, I think that Ohio State and Penn State have the top 2 running back rooms in football. But Notre Dame's close behind, if not potentially the nation's best. We have a very elite set of running back rooms in these semifinal matchups, with the exception of Texas, but I think if not for injuries, Texas might actually be there as well. Notre Dame does a very good job of running the football, not just because of their offensive line, which, trust me, we will get to in a few minutes here. But Jeremiah Love is averaging 7.3 yards per carry with 16 rushing touchdowns on 1,076 rushing yards. Riley Leonard has 15 rushing touchdowns, 831 rushing yards on the season. Already told you about his passing capability and how it was limited. Didn't really talk about his rushing stats specifically, but I told you he's an effective runner, effective scrambler. Has almost 1,000 rushing yards on the ground. Jadarian Price has 720 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns. And Notre Dame on the season, they are averaging on the ground 6.1 yards per carry, which is second, and 217.6 rushing yards per game. This team, in part because of Love and Price, really runs the football effectively, especially when it comes to earning explosive runs, and you can look at mostly Jeremiah Love for that. But Price is also extremely athletic. This is an elite running back room that will go up against Penn State and I think give their defense some issues potentially. Number 4 is safety Xavier Watts, who's a future NFL player, and as we already talked about, he makes plays. He's everywhere. He'll stuff you in the run. He'll pick off your quarterback. He will make your life miserable. He will make an offensive coordinator's life a living hell. 8 passes defended, a forced fumble, an interception, 1 for 6, and he's second on the team in total tackles with 67. The statistical profile, watching him against Georgia, watching him against Indiana, he did get banged up a little bit against Georgia, but I'd expect him to be healthy and playing. He is everywhere. Everywhere. He is an alien caliber player. So by himself, I think he is a huge reason why Notre Dame can win the Orange Bowl and potentially win a national championship, because he's just that good of a player. And what I'm curious to see is what he does against Tyler Warren, who's another alien player. Can he take Tyler Warren away? Or even if he's not on Tyler Warren a whole lot, can he confuse Drew Aller? Can he be an impactful force against an elite Penn State rushing offense? There are so many questions in this matchup that Xavier Watts can be the answer to, which is why I have him high on this top 10 list for why Notre Dame can win the Orange Bowl. Number 3 is an offensive line that is deep, that is physical, and that is tough. You're talking about, Billy Scruth, Anthony Knapp, Rocco Spindler, and so many players on that offensive line that are coached by Joe Rudolph, who I think is one of the best O-line coaches in the country. They're well coached, they're disciplined, they suffered some injuries early in the season, but it's almost like those injuries don't matter because they develop well, they coach well, they recruit well, and they're very good at getting push up front, or at least doing the best that they can. Their floor is not low and their ceiling is high. I thought that Georgia did a pretty good job against that offensive line, holding Notre Dame to some minimal rushing yards, getting some pressure on Leonard. But Georgia has one of the best lines of scrimmage in all of college football. Really good offensive line when it's playing to its ceiling, and an even better defensive line that's better than what Georgia had last season. And Notre Dame, at the end of the day, held their own water, and we've seen them in games against Indiana or the regular season against some good teams where they win in the trenches. And a huge part of their success on the ground, again, is not just because of Leonard, Price, and Love, but because of their offensive line, which I think is a non-negotiable. Teams have to deal with it. Number two, and this really blends in reasons number 5 and 3 pretty effectively and nicely, is their off-tackle rushing attack. The running back and O-line combo that Notre Dame has, and you saw it against Indiana, creates an explosive rushing attack. A huge part of the reason why Notre Dame runs the football the way they do is because of their explosivity on the ground. I mean, look at Jeremiah Love's statistical profile. Against Indiana, 8 carries, 108 yards, long of 98. Against Army, 7 carries for 130 yards, long of 68, had another long in that game. Against Navy, 12 carries for 102 yards, long of 64. Against Stanford, 6 carries for 53 yards, long of 39. Against Purdue, long of 48 on 10 carries with 109 yards, long of 34 and a touchdown. He's had touchdowns in every game for Notre Dame, by the way, except for Georgia. That's why I'm not really mentioning it. 79 rushing yards, 11 carries, but a long of 34. And against A&M, 14 carries, 91 yards, long of 29. This is a team that, yes, can get consistent 5 to 10 yard carries, but from what I've watched and what I feel, it's more so they get consistent 1 to 4 yard carries, don't give up on it, and then they hit a few times per game on those really long rushing touchdowns. And the off-tackle rushing attack they have is just very impressive, and especially a team against Penn State who traditionally like to play tight, and they have some issues tackling at the second level. I can see Notre Dame breaking off some long runs in this game, especially when it comes to factoring in after-contact yardage. And finally, this is the most important reason, and a huge part of it's not just because of how good of a coach Marcus Freeman is, but how questionable Penn State's James Franklin is in some of these big games. Freeman, period, is a better head coach than James Franklin, and I don't think there's much of an argument to that, if I'm going to be honest. Marcus Freeman has been at Notre Dame for a shorter period of time than James Franklin has, and he already has a larger volume of significant wins, and he's improving year over year over year. Now, maybe it's because of Mike Denbrock and Al Golden, but I think that the Sugar Bowl was kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back for me, where I viewed Freeman as a little bit overrated since his tenure began, in part because of some of those really stupid losses that are just mind-boggling, but I can't say that when you outcoach Kirby Smart. I have not seen James Franklin outcoach any high-level coach or any high-level team. Just haven't. So I think Notre Dame has a decisive coaching advantage here, and I think that is the biggest reason why they can win this football game. Because when you have the superior coaching and the rosters are pretty similar, that's a pretty big tiebreaker, if I'm being honest, and I think Notre Dame has that. So those are the reasons why I believe, reasons 10 through 1 through 10, whatever you want to say, why I think Notre Dame can win this football game. We're talking about, Notre Dame's coaching edge. We're looking at their off-tackle rushing game, a physical offensive line, running backs who are some of the nation's best, also safety Xavier Watts, who I think is an alien player, a defensive back, a secondary versus Penn State wide receiver edge in favor of the Fighting Irish, disciplined linebackers who also have a lot of depth, Riley Leonard, who's effective with his legs and doesn't make mistakes through the air, a special teams edge, and they force turnovers, they don't give up the football, and they've done that consistently. So those are the reasons why I think Notre Dame can win this game. Go Irish, and let's have an awesome and fun Orange Bowl. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel, And also hit that notification bell so that way you can get notified when new content from College Football with Sam drops. I appreciate you very much, and also share the video around to others who you know enjoy the sport of college football and love it as I do and as you do, and comment your thoughts down below so that we can have a conversation, because I want to know what you are thinking. And join our Discord server where we talk college football 24/7 via the link in the description or down below in the pinned comment. Thank you to my Heisman Patreon members, Crash2488, Brascal Rascal, and Carlo OH. Thank you to my All-American Patreon members, Chris Lane, Ismar, and Tyler Nye. And thank you to my All-Conference members, John Lynn, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Sale, Austin Christmas, Joshua Jorgensen, and Will Loftus. Make sure to check out my merchandise store and or Patreon page, or super chat down in the comment section below to support the channel. The Patreon page and merchandise store links are in the description or down below in the pinned comment. I hope you have a wonderful day. It is December, so Merry Christmas and also Happy New Year. I will see you guys soon.